I'm Alex Walton-Regan and I play the Inquisitor. I realised early on that the role of the Inquisitor, the role of the player, is to serve the person playing the game. So the one common thread I had to find for every moment of the Inquisitor's life was strength. There has to be a sense of strength and authority, that she is in control, that she is commanding. And even when she's afraid, she's someone who's still going to push forward, who's going to push on through that fear, through that vulnerability.
Alexius, it's time to answer for your crimes.
I decided that her voice was going to be quite chesty, so quite in the chest. So instead of being higher and sort of in the throat, I really wanted to bring it kind of down into the chest, into the lower register, very rooted, very grounded to the floor, so that when I was performing the role, whatever situation I would find myself in, whichever different option I was recording, I would still be strong and grounded and in control.
Hand over the amulet and we let him go.
Let him go and I swear you'll get what you want.
I want the world back.
No. No!
I always take off my shoes when I'm in the booth so I can really feel the floor beneath me, and then you kind of open your chest and you really use that lower register to command and to be quite smooth in my delivery.
You hold me prisoner, accuse me of murder, and now you want my help? You're insane. I'm not going anywhere with you.
I'm so thrilled to be playing a female protagonist. I think it's really important that women are represented as equally and as strongly as men are. And we can't really do that in society without having male and female leads. I feel really proud to work for a company that incorporates so many different types of people. They've got women and they've got gay and straight and bisexual and transgender characters. And that's the world we live in, so we need to represent it within the arts. And I think BioWare do, and that's why I feel very honored to work for BioWare, because they represent values that I believe in, that I hold dear. So, yeah. Well, when my character has to do a spit take in a scene, for example, obviously the only way to do that is authentically. I'm quite a method actress, so it's really important for me that I have water with me in the booth at that time, so I can take a big gulp. And then someone can say something shocking or absurd, and I can spit out.
Incredulous. What?
The mic picks up on all that lovely, juicy sound of the water being spat, and yeah, it gets used in the game. Sorry if you just hold that up. Thanks. Can I get some more water, guys? I think it's really important to be as authentic as possible. I did once ask if they could bring in a horse for me on the galloping scenes, but I think someone said no. I don't know why. I thought a small Shetland pony would have worked, but they weren't keen. That's it? Okay, great. I think we got it. Thank you. Oh, fabulous. I'm done for the day, guys.
I'm Freddie Prinze Jr., and I am voicing the Iron Bull. The Iron Bull's an interesting guy. He looks one way and acts another. He's very, very complicated. He's the opposite of any Qunari you've ever sort of experienced in the franchise. He is not solemn. He is not flat. He is much more emotional than your normal Qunari. And he's really only afraid of one thing, which is demons, because they possess people and make you act weird, and it freaks him out. He's still willing to kill them and hack and slash them until they're no more, but he definitely is, he's definitely afraid. He doesn't have a moral code the way we as mere mortals do. I think he looks at most species as survivalists, and they're willing to do whatever's necessary to survive. It's not good or bad, just don't get in his way or you're gonna get ripped up. He's very much on sort of the defrocked samurai path, sort of the Ronin warrior. I'm gonna do my own thing unless I find a cause worth fighting for, and I'll fight for that for as long as I see fit, and I'll have sex with everyone and move on my way. He's the James Bond of Qunari.
I spent a year or two working for Fisher's Bleeders, but their captain was crap. Figured I could do better. I snapped his sword in half and we talked things out over drinks.
I did James Vega for Mass Effect 3, and he was a beta personality. I will follow orders, I will do as you say. And the bull is, don't give him an order. Don't give him an order. If you're an alpha personality, he'll get along with you well. If you compliment him, he'll be like, yes, I am great, I am fantastic, but I don't care. And that's sort of who he is. He's a very sort of up and down kind of guy.
We've hunted wyverns, fought through caves to find some old magical crap, even went giant baiting once.
I've never had the passion for the movies and television that I've had for video games. So it's funny, the first one I ever did was Mass Effect, the first time I got to voice a video game. And I feel like gamers know how the characters should act. I feel like sometimes you play games and you just know the guy doesn't play. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna blow anybody up, but you know who you are, and you shouldn't be doing it.
Anybody mind if I take some souvenirs? Maybe just a couple of those pronged helmets. Right. You two just work whatever that is out of your system. Like poison. Weird ass poison.
And the thing that Mass Effect did, and a lot of BioWare games do, is they really play into the psychology of it. And it's not so much about empowering the gamer as empowering everyone in the game. The fact that you could have relationships, you know, whether they were sexual and adult in nature or whether they were just two friends and soldiers looking out for one another and knowing that they've both gone through a lot of crap, it was a big deal. And I think that's why people sort of connected to the Shepard character so much more. Like, you play Super Mario Brothers, but you're not Mario, right? You push a button and he jumps and he says, hey, look at me. But you're never him, right? You're Shepard. Like, everything about him is your choice. So that's, I think, why the game was so special. And that's why the Dragon Age games work, because they give not just you power to make the character your own. It goes way deeper than that. It's about relationships and who do you trust and what type of characters do you like to bring into battle with you, who's gonna help you bottleneck these mages, who's gonna help you stay out of line of sight. We're talking Dragon Age now. Line of sight means if the mage can see you, you're frigging dead. So have a wall between you, have a corner, and send your henchmen to go help you out. And that's a good trick to get you through. All the pros are like, yeah, whatever, we know that. But there's new people too.
Hello, I'm Miranda Raisin and I play Cassandra Pentecost. Cassandra is, well, the first word that springs to mind is she's a toughie. Whenever I've done sessions playing Cassandra, I always kind of leave just walking a little bit taller. She's not exactly softer than when you last saw her, but there's definitely a more human side to her now. She's a warrior, but she's got her inner demons as well, and I think that makes her quite human. She's a sucker for romance, it turns out. She, you know, appears to be somebody who's kind of wears a metaphorical chastity belt, or is, you know, everything's kind of hidden beneath the armor. You know, she's not sort of masculine. She's just a girl who's not a girly girl, who's kind of honed a certain part of her.
We take our victories where we can. What's important is that your mark is now stable, as is the breach.
In Dragon Age 2, she just has no patience for Varric whatsoever, and she just sees him as a ridiculous fool of a dwarf. But I mean, they're not the best of friends. But there's a new dynamic, really, I think, to their relationship now. She has a sort of grudging, if not respect, I think she gets more where he's coming from now. You sort of find out more in this game about Cassandra's background and difficult things that she's had to deal with in her youth. She's definitely got a vulnerability that I think is necessarily shown, you know, in very difficult times. She's quite unexpectedly good at comforting other people when they're in real trouble, and I don't think the Cassandra of Dragon Age 2 would necessarily have been quite so good at empathizing with other players and reaching out to them. She was sort of an angrier person, and now the anger is sort of more on the outside, more manifested itself into her physicality, and I think made her stronger physically, but more vulnerable sort of inside.
Alistair is the man who really didn't want to be king. He's a fabulous character because he's so conflicted.
Like we all are in life, you know, we never want to be doing the things that we're doing. Nobody's ever happy with where they are. They want to be doing something else, and the same applies for Alistair. His insecurity made him human. And there's a tendency in a lot of games to go superhuman, because, hey, we all want to be a superhero and we kind of want to relate, but the best superheroes are the ones who are insecure. But he's a great character to play because of that, because you don't know which strengths are gonna, you know, which side he's gonna choose in the end. You know, you get to be courageous and sexy and usually get the girl, you know, not like my real life. So yeah, that's why I like to be the hero. Villains can often be a meatier role because they have so much more depth and actually in a conflict, but they're also very confident and sure of themselves. So that's why I like Alistair, because he has kind of a lot of those levels that a villain could, and he could very easily have gone down the wrong path. So we're coming to a point now in Alistair's life where I think he feels like he's done it all, and maybe it's not all done. We'll have to wait and see. I've actually had a really wonderful experience with the fans of Alistair.
Steve.
They have been sweet and respectful and kind.
Steve. May I call you Steve?
I think what surprises me the most is if I'm just out somewhere and I will ask someone a question and someone else who's there will go, "Are you Alistair?" Just from my voice. That blows me away. So I've actually found, no, you hear stories about people getting mobbed. I haven't been mobbed yet. I don't know what that feels like.
Can I hold your hand?
No, you can't.
Your hand's really soft.
It is. It's very
really
soft.
Do you use moisturizer?
They know, you guys know, every single line. I don't. So when stuff gets quoted at me, I have to kind of assume it's a line in the game and kind of laugh and go with it. Right.
Alistair doesn't love me.
Sometimes it might not be. Sometimes it just might be something weird somebody says to me, but I kind of just go with it, you know.
Why? Why don't you love me?
Well, it's complicated. I think Alistair is incapable of loving you. That's really why, you know, maybe it's just you. That's what it is. Maybe it's just you.
I've got it.
Maybe you're not queen material.
I should go.
But I do know that swooping is bad. I do remember that. Yes, there are T-shirts. Yeah.
My name is Kate Mulgrew, and I play the incomparable character of Flemeth. I see her as absolutely transcendent, which means that whatever she is, she can transcend. And she has that power on other people as well. In any given line, she can be playing 3 different emotions with equal importance. She can throw away something as easily as she can throw away a life, and she can reclaim it just as quickly. She's a kind of universal mystical witch. Her power, it seems to me, is infinite and vast. And it encompasses empathy and a kind of strength that brooks no foolishness and no destruction of the world she has spent thousands of years creating. I find her a very compelling character. You can go anywhere vocally. She can go very deep. She can go high. She can go somewhere in her gentleness, and she can go somewhere in her power. So it's a fantastic sort of Stradivarius character.
One day someone will summarize the terrible events of your life so quickly. But yes, I was that woman. That is how my tale began.
Life is gray. You know that. The more experienced a person is, the deeper they go into life, the less black and white it is. And that incredibly interesting shade of gray gets to be played. But within that shade, there are infinite varieties, right? So I think that's just her. The black is the bad guy and white is the good guy. But we all know that the true parameters of life lie in between those two. And Flemeth is the absolute exploration thereof.
You were never in danger from me.
I'm not trying to get out of your way, bro. I'm just trying to see her. It's like I keep going like this, like I don't want to be on camera. Sorry. Man. I do want to be on camera. A little bit. Not a lot. Hi, I'm Brian Bloom, and I play Varric in Dragon Age Inquisition. Let me tell you a little bit about Varric. Varric is a storyteller. Varric is a mercenary. Varric is a merchant. Varric is for sale, but Varric has evolved in many ways. My crime serials are my most popular. Hard in Hightown, guards breaking the rules to get things done. The Tale of the Champion is the most famous thing I've written, or infamous, maybe. One of my favorite lines is, I remember Varric said one time, it was after a battle, and he said something like, I know I'm not dead because there'd be more women here. And I think that sums up like part of his vision and view of himself, because there's very little sign that that's actually, that's all part of his maybe inflated vision of himself.
Hi, I'm Claudia Black. I play Morrigan in Dragon Age Inquisition. I love voice work because I can usually turn up without having bathed, except on days like this when there's cameras in the room. It's extremely playful, and it allows actors to be very unself-conscious. And there are some technical aspects to it, so, you know, not wearing noisy clothing and yet trying to find a way to make all the sounds come from your body, because you can hear the difference when everything sounds too clinical and cold. Well, well, what have we here? Really important, actually, that your voice is warmed up before you get in there, because everyone expects you to be sort of game ready, as it were.
I gargle glass and scotch and shark's teeth. That's how I find Varric.
Bianca, baby, introduce yourself. Oh, please. Bianca can handle this herself. Bianca, you minx, that was beautiful.
Your eyes can't speak for you on the microphone. You open your eyes and you have a very intense look, but if your voice hasn't changed, it's not going to translate. You know, sometimes I've seen some guys that have to take off their shoes and get up on their tippy toes to find the tone and the voice and literally hit the notes of their character. And that works because nobody can see you. But if you had to be that guy on camera, you couldn't do that anymore.
When you're presented with a role that's been well written, there's already inherent complexities in the character, and Morrigan from Dragon Age is no exception. So I was really lucky to step into something that had been so thoughtfully crafted by David. And I've never really been in the dark about, you know, the layers of her character and what their expectations are. When I just have faith and trust that I can identify and place myself sort of empathically, that's really how I do it. I'm just sort of a bit of an empath with my acting, and I will just find a way to just step into that situation, and the emotion comes usually very easily. Laughter, I find, is much harder than tears.
In the older generation, which I'm partially from, we used to joke about hearing yourself on people's answering machines. You know, hey, this is Brian, leave a message, or this is the Bloom family, leave a message, and, you know, time and date you're calling and we'll get back to you. And that was a lot of people's first time hearing their voice, and they're like, I sound like that? It would be pretty irresponsible and sort of silly to do this kind of voice work and still feel that way. But that's not to say that sometimes it doesn't come back and it's not what you wanted, not what you expected, not what you hoped for. Sometimes that can be a good thing, and sometimes it can be like, oh man, go back to the drawing board, man, fix that.
All right, warm up.
Okay.
Without fail, fail-safe Claudia Black VO warm up. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Now do it to me. Do it! Harder. Get your game fist. I need this. I'm going into the ring. I need you to take me seriously.
I'm sorry.
Do it! Now we're talking. That is how you warm up for a video game.
Well, that is the thing. When you're in the booth playing a mage, you suddenly feel, you know, every molecule in your body becoming magical, and suddenly you have these powers as well. I can show you something if you like. Watch this, Jessica.
Okay, okay.
You're gonna like this.
Yeah.
See? Mm-hmm. It just goes on and on.
It's almost like an infinity scarf.
Does that already exist?
No.
This is a whole new thing, yeah.
Yeah.
Think of a number between 1 and 10.
Okay. 5.
Think of another one.
7.
Now think of another one.
3.
That's the number I was thinking of.
You're doing real. I mean, I don't even know how you have time to do this. You're
I do it at night. I'm an insomniac, so magic feeds very well into that type of life. If you don't sleep, you learn magic. You see it.
Yeah, there it is. Okay, cool.
Which one?
That one.
Brilliant! Brilliant.
Oh man.
You see?
Okay.
There's something behind you, really.
Oh yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We got it. I don't really know whether I should show you this one. I've been working on it a long time.
No, please do. I'm enjoying this. I promise. Okay. I know. I don't mean to be so tough. I really am enjoying this. Okay. Please. Okay. What?
Magic.
I'm Rosie Bucknell. Well, I'm from Wales, but I live in Yorkshire.
I'm Stephen Kelly, and I'm from Edinburgh, Scotland.
I'm a mum. I've got 2 little girls. I'm a librarian, and now I'm a voice actress.
Oh my God! You guys, welcome to Side UK. Come on in. Are you ready to do some VO?
Yes.
Let's go.
And I mean, I've never been in a professional studio, and so the fact that the first one was BioWare was just, wow, you know, you can't get better than that.
Right, you guys are in Studio 2 today. Do you want to come in and meet the team?
Sure.
Cool, let's go.
Yeah, the first time I stepped into the booth was scary, actually, and so you're trying to decide there and then what voice you're going to do and how this person's going to sound. It was nerve-wracking, but in a really good way.
I studied with Adan after he left the service of the King of Ferelden. When I heard interesting gossip, I'd pass word to Liliana. Sometimes it was helpful.
It's really fast. You go into the booth and then they tell you, you're playing this character. And then they put up the lines and it's, you have to be really quick. We're the same, you and I. Well, that is overstating it. You are nothing like me, but we both need people.
It's been such a good day. I could not have asked for a better day with nice people. It's been really fantastic. Being in the studio, doing proper professional voice acting, it's just been a real treat.
Pretty surreal to see all the other actors walking in and out of here. I've seen a couple of the other sort of lead actors from Dragon Age and things, and it's just, wow, wasn't expecting any of that. I just wish this could just keep going. I wouldn't want to leave. I'm at home.
Yeah, what a day. What a day. Great day.
As you move through the deep roads, you're struck by the danger. You could be attacked at any time.
It is dark, it is dangerous. It is very mysterious and shadowy, and you never know what's going to be around the corner. The farther that you descend, the more secrets and mysteries arise, and more questions that you have.
It has that sense of exploration and like that fantasy of going where no one's been before or have not been in a long time.
The Blight came through and the hordes of Darkspawn basically took over, destroyed much of Dwarven society, turned the deep roads from a thriving connection of trade to ruins, essentially, that are just infested by the evil that is the Blight.
You've seen the Darkspawn a little bit in Inquisition, you saw them a lot in Origins and a little bit in Dragon Age 2, but this is the first time in Inquisition that you're really facing off against a horde.
They're kind of demonic, just from an art direction standpoint. They're pointy and they're aggressive shapes in their armor and that sort of thing. We want them to look dangerous.
The palette for the Darkspawn is so huge. We have all these little pieces that we can put together that actually create different combat situations that you've never experienced before. We really wanted to capture that linear dungeon crawl and infuse it with a good story. You can expect to start at the top, and it's gonna be layer, level after level, and it's gonna change as you go down.
Players can expect a lot of mystery. What you think you know about the Deep Roads might not necessarily be everything about the Deep Roads. It's not just about Dwarven civilization down there. There's much more than meets the eye.
Hi, my name is Trevor Morris, and I'm the composer for Dragon Age Inquisition. The idea of the game itself was really the main theme of the music. It wasn't really particular to any one thing. It was an all-encompassing thing. And it has kind of a folk element to it, like almost like a folk song, and then it goes into more of a sweeping melodic type of thing. So it was supposed to be an overall environment musically that the whole game could swim underneath. Dragon Age Inquisition is its own thing. I mean, you know, I'm largely driven by the story, and the visuals are so incredible. And for me, there's an inspiration that comes from that you can't get any other way. I'm forever asking them to send me in-game footage. Play the game and just capture it in video and send it to me, and I loop it on my screen. So I play it in the background and things just happen, and the color and the saturation of color and the movement inspires kind of how I find tempos and things like that. They really wanted me to do something different. So in that sense, it was a fresh start. I mean, it is a franchise, but I got to sort of break free of what had been done in the past and do my own version of it, which has been really refreshing and great for me. Being in Nashville, Nashville's a music town, man. I love that about this town. I was really excited to come here. I've never recorded here, never been here before. The studio has stained glass coming through it as the sunlight changes through the day, and it's fun to experience the, we called it the Temple of Dragons today is what we called it, I think. I'm just overwhelmed by the emotional quality that I got from all the sections. We did strings on their own, we did brass on their own, and we did choir on their own. To me, choir being the most timeless instrument, it's been around since the dawn of man, obviously. Bringing a choral element to it is really important to me. I love writing for choir, and I thought it was an important part of the language for Dragon Age, and we just finished the choir as the icing on the cake. So you get that gothic, ancient, it's both modern and old at the same time. That's the thing that choir brings that nothing else can do, so I'm really happy we got to do that. My roots are in the choir. I sang in the choir as a kid, and it's funny how it works, isn't it? You know, I come full circle in my career to a place where I end up either gravitating toward, or projects gravitate toward me that have a choral element in them. So for me, writing for choir is really like coming home in a way. I mean, as a composer, having your score come to life from your head to actual live musicians is always a thrill. And sometimes it's what you expect, sometimes it's not as good as you expect. And in this case, here in Nashville, it just exceeded what I ever hoped it would be. It just sounds amazing, so I'm pretty stoked.
So BioWare are known for creating these great RPGs that people really seem to connect with. What do you think is the secret?
Well, at BioWare we start with great stories, and we've learned over the years that great stories come from great characters. So we spend a lot of time on the characters themselves, characters you can get personally involved with, characters with a lot of depth, characters with backstory, characters with motivations. We've tried to build all of those things in the games over the years, and we're doing that now in Dragon Age Inquisition.
Well, I think it's really about bettering what's gone before. BioWare has a great legacy in the RPG market, but also from an artistic standpoint. So when we're approaching a game like Dragon Age Inquisition, really we're thinking, how can we make it bigger? How can it be more lush, more creatively fulfilling?
Where do you start with it? I mean, it's a big project. What's the kicking off point?
So the writers often have a lot of ideas, and they start by drafting out the characters themselves, the places they want to go in the lore, the kinds of scenarios they want the player to get involved in.
When we first start, we'll start talking in broad concepts. We don't want the writers to get too far ahead, so we'll say noble knight or a thief with a heart of gold. We'll just start with sort of broad strokes.
What are the big do's and don'ts, would you say, of making a BioWare RPG?
Always make sure the story is there, and first and foremost, always make sure players feel like they're getting a big, epic story, something that you couldn't have in real life, something that feels like it's bigger than the player themselves.
Do's and don'ts. Well, you do want to give the player a feeling that their choices matter. That we're not saying that you have to feel this way about whatever choice is being presented or whatever is happening in the world. You may not always have a choice of what to do about it, but you should have a choice about who you are. When it comes to the followers, the people who travel with you in the story, they are the ciphers through which the player interacts with all the big themes. So if we have the Templars and Mages as being two big elements in this story, we're going to want somebody who embraces the view of the Templars, someone who embraces the view of the Mages, and gives it a personal face. Because otherwise these are very abstract issues.
So would you say you've got any don'ts when it comes to making RPG?
Yeah, I think don't constrain your player too much. Definitely players want amazing, epic experiences. You can have intimate moments, you can have smaller moments in there, but they need to be there alongside the really big moments of the game. Other don'ts include, don't think you know what the player wants. You can tell a story, but how players will experience it is up to them.
Don't talk down to your audience. You can run with the assumption that your audience is smart enough to figure out things by context. Don't assume that your audience is only made up of one type of person. There's a lot of different people that play the game.
We're lucky with Dragon Age because you've got that ability to go in there, mine some really cool things. You still want to have a great story, we still want to have a beautiful world you can immerse yourself in, but the way you go about achieving that is very different.
Aaron, thank you very much. And make sure you look out for more videos from my trip to BioWare. I'm here with John and Michael at BioWare Edmonton, and these guys are going to give me a few tips and tricks on how to get started in Dragon Age Inquisition. So let's get started with the first and most important thing. Which race do you pick?
It kind of depends on what you want to go for. Each race has obviously its unique look. Dwarf has magic resist, so it's a little bit easier to fight against, the demonic enemies that you're going to be facing throughout it. Qunari has a melee defense, a little bit easier to tank stuff with that. Elves have range defense.
Range defense,
yes. Whereas the humans just get the easier pick of, you get one more ability points and allows you a little bit more freedom.
Yes, you can spend that ability point on another upgrade or another ability or another passive, anything, and that as a human you can just go that 1 point further that no one else can.
Which races do you guys play as?
I'm a dwarf female. My blades are.
I go human because I like to get that extra oomph.
But dwarves can't be mages.
No, so I'm playing as a warrior.
We have 3 classes in Inquisition. You have a warrior, you have a mage, and you have a rogue.
How do you choose?
We're a party-based game, so you can choose what you want to play as. That's your character, but you already have your party to flesh out everything else that you don't have.
Yeah, you definitely want to try and have a balanced party, and having the followers there with so many options, it's really easy to find someone that both you like in the story, but can also support you in combat.
Who else is in your party?
I've got Varric as well. He's really awesome. He's got Bianca, the crossbow. I picked up Dorian recently. I loved Dorian so much in the story. I didn't care. I just had to push somebody out to get him in there. And then, yeah, I also have Cassandra. So she's up there making sure that my guy can deal the damage, and so I don't have to be doing the tanking for the party.
So when players boot up the game for the first time, what would you say would be your top tips to get them started in combat?
Make sure you capitalize on combos as often as you can. Cross-class combos are the most effective, so setting up a state like freeze or paralyze with your mage, and then coming in with your warrior and hitting him with Mighty Blow to have a huge electrical explosion or shatter that frozen guy. Also, keep in mind the soft combos too. So abilities that may not seem like they work well together, but when you put them together, they work really well. So something like Pull of the Abyss and a Fire Mine.
And last of all, it's an RPG, and it's one of the great things about us is just experiment, right? We've got respecs potions for everyone. It's pretty cheap to do, and it's fairly easy to just switch out what your party loadout is. So just experiment, see what interests you, and what is fun as an ability. I think we give you right away Winter's Grasp.
Yeah.
And that's just an amazing ability. It's single target, but it CCs, it does cold damage, and it freezes them for a short duration. And that's super useful.
Freezing someone solid is still going to be a good idea, 50 hours into the game, as soon as it was at level 1.
John and Mike, thank you very much. I feel prepared to lead the Inquisition now.
You're welcome.
Make sure you look out for more videos from my trip to BioWare. So I'm here with Ben McGrath, who is the lead environment artist here at BioWare Edmonton on Dragon Age Inquisition. So Ben, let's get things started. What exactly do you do here?
Well, I lead the team that creates all of the level art for the game.
So Inquisition is being made in Frostbite 3. How has that changed the way you guys work, especially when it comes to environments?
So Frostbite 3 has offered us much more advanced rendering capabilities than our previous engine, allowed us to have a lot of micro detail in the environment. We've got realistic water, we've got incredibly dense foliage, we've got wide open vistas and much greater environments than we've had before, much bigger environments than we've ever been able to do before.
How much bigger are we talking?
It's difficult to put an exact number on it, but I would say that any one of our zones is probably comparable in size to either of the previous 2 games, and we have about 10 of them.
How does the world itself help to kind of tell the story of what's happening in Inquisition?
We've tried to make it a lot more believable than before, and we've tried to populate it with evidence of the events that have been occurring in the story. But there's a lot of death, destruction visible in the world. There's a lot of buildings that have been destroyed. There's a lot of evidence of the Mage Templar conflict. We have like plague wagons and corpses everywhere and people fighting.
So this time we're going to lots of different locations in Thedas. How are they kind of different from each other?
The world is divided into a lot of different areas, populated by different races. What we've done is we've actually created a bunch of different architectural styles. So we have Orlesian style architecture, we have Ferelden, we have Dwarven, we have Elven, and we have the Tevinter style as well. They're all very different. On top of that, the different areas have different biomes. So some are arid, some are boreal, and some are temperate. Each area in the game can often be wildly different because it has different flora and fauna and a different architectural style.
What was the biggest challenge when you were developing it?
Coming up with systemic gameplay elements that layer on top of each other and allow for events to occur every 20 or 30 seconds or so in the world is really difficult.
Can you talk a little bit about these kind of events going around?
We have all kinds of things. We have your average skirmishes that go on, and we have bandits raiding areas, then we have mages and templars fighting. We have these weird kind of but cool puzzle mechanics like the ancient view skulls that you can look through and find hidden stuff. We have like astrariums where you solve logic puzzles, which are cool. But again, they open up hidden dungeons, find mounts, you can go hunting, it goes on and on.
So how have you managed to kind of balance the having stuff to do in the open world with sort of trying to keep people on track with the main story?
So that's exactly where the Inquisition mechanics come in. So everything that you do in the world feeds back into the concept of the Inquisition and this army that you're building. You can claim camps, and those give you a small base of operations. You can also claim keeps. And then the decisions you make throughout the story affect what's going on in the world. So depending on what you say or do, you can find Templars roaming the landscape, or mages, or bandits, and so on.
Ben, thank you so much for telling me about Dragon Age Inquisition's environments. For more on the game, make sure you look out for some more of our videos from here at BioWare Edmonton. I'm here at BioWare with Ryan Rozenki, who is the lead visual effects artist on Dragon Age Inquisition. So Ryan, whenever I think of visual effects, I think of movies. I think of real actors and then digital effects put in afterwards. How is it different for video games?
It's not so different. In film, you know, what you can do with special effects drives the shot and all that. It's similar to that in video games.
So when it comes to, you know, attacking and combat, what visual effects might occur that we might not really notice as being visual effects?
There's quite a bit of work just in all the elemental upgrades to the weapons. They each have a unique impact and sound. It really brings a lot of depth into customizing your weapon, because you're rewarded when you equip it. You have now cool flames on your bow or whatever, or you're shooting different projectiles.
So would you say each character has their own sort of different style when it comes to the visual effects?
Every follower in Dragon Age has their own unique flavor to their combat. Like even the different, like you choose mage, but Vivian versus Solus versus some of the other enemy mages, they all have different magic.
So just walking around the levels, what kind of visual effects can you just see, just walking around?
Oh, you'll see tons of torches, and you'll see lots of campfires where people have set up camp. You'll see foggy areas. You'll see special, spectacular levels that have their own sets of unique effects. You'll see the changes from battle, like you'll see the destruction from a huge war, and you'll see how the impact that the Fade has on the environment.
Which is your favorite ability?
The meteor storm was fun. It went through like gigantic meteors to like medium meteors, but we're really happy with the way that it turned out.
Ryan, thank you so much. For more Dragon Age Inquisition goodness, make sure you keep your eye out for some more of my videos from my time here at BioWare Edmonton. Tactical cameras back. What was the rationale for bringing it back?
We do speak to our fans a lot, and we looked at what people loved about Dragon Age Origins and what they loved about Dragon Age 2. And there was definitely a sense that people wanted to be more thoughtful in combat. So the tactical camera is a great way to do that. So it allows you to pull the camera all the way up, pause the game, and have a think about the battlefield and sort of pan around and sort of see what's happening, what enemies you're facing against, where they're positioned, you know, what they're doing, and then issue orders to particular characters in your party. You know, examples of it would be, you know, there might be a choke point and you want to sort of bunch up the enemies, you know, in that sort of choke point so you can rain fiery death down on them. So, you know, you can send your warrior forward, hold the ground at that choke point. Whilst they're doing that, then you can maybe send your ranged attackers up on sort of cliffs or high ground and start slaughtering people.
The nice thing is, baseline, you can kind of pick how you want to play. If you're an action player, you can play without tactical cam, and you're going to get all the stuff that's sweet with action. If you like to, you know, take time out of the equation, moment to moment, think through every single move, then tactical cam lets you do that. I'm kind of more straight in the middle, so I'll start off a fight in tactical cam, you know, scout the area, see what I'm up against, you know, then I'll maybe dive in with action after putting in a couple commands through tac cam. And then if things get really crazy, sometimes I need to just take a step back and be like, okay, everybody stop, because I need to know what to do now.
It can be somewhat of a pressure valve for players, you know, they can feel sometimes overwhelmed with how much is going on. Every now and then if I get into tough spots or tough combat encounters, that's when I'll pull up the tactical camera and be like, okay, well, what do I need to do here, and be a bit more thoughtful. We've added movement lines into the tactical camera, so when you tell someone to go move to a certain spot or hold a certain spot, it will draw a line about how they're going to get to that spot, which is good information to have about, you know, pathing of enemies and your characters. And then we've also added in an ability when they're panning around in the tactical cam, they can hover over enemies and they can see information on that enemy. And the more that you research and the more that you fight that type of enemy, the more information is going to be available to you. So you may see things like their health, their armor, what strengths and weaknesses they have. It's extra information, it's another layer on top of the original tactical camera. We've added in a kind of like a slow-mo to the tactical camera that allows you to plan out your moves and then pull the trigger, and it sort of advances time a little bit, and you just release the trigger and it pauses it again. And that's been a really interesting feature, because what we found is that players go in and out of tactical combat a lot more than they used to in the previous games. So in Origins it was very much like players would either play in tactical or in action in real time, and they never really go between the two. In Inquisition we're finding that they're definitely going in and out a hell of a lot more, so I think that'll feel a lot more fluid and a lot more seamless experience as they play through.
BioWare is known for these, you know, fantastic characters people really identify with. So can you tell me a little bit about the journey from initial conception all the way through to the final game?
Character creation is it takes a huge amount of iteration on the part of many departments to really come with a you know, finished and believable character that people will identify with.
Each time the breach expands, your mark spreads, and it is killing you.
So how do the writers and the artists work together?
We could work in a bubble, I suppose, and write what the character is, the story, and so forth. And I think it's always better when we work as a team.
We start working with the writers and the designers to really get an idea of the world, get an idea of how the characters are going to react to each other, their personalities, and then we take that to the concept artists, we start sketching it up.
The visual appearance of the characters takes a lot of work and again takes a lot of iteration, so it could be hair or it could be the shape of the face, making all these things look realistic enough for players to be able to get attached to. It's very, very difficult, but you definitely see it sort of moves along, and then suddenly it's like bang, and it's unreal, and you're like, wow, that's amazing.
Aren't you charming?
So you have that eureka moment where the character just sort of appears.
I think, you know, you really do when and it's often actually quite late in development when there's a lot of tech that's been built and a lot of animation's been done and the voice actors have been working, and then at some point you look at it one day and you're like, you know, you look at the next thing and you're like, wow, that's actually amazing.
The key is to try and get inside the character and figure out what their personality is and how that's going to manifest itself in a physical way. We have a great new character in Dragon Age Inquisition called Ironbull. He's a Qunari warrior, and being Qunari, he's huge and muscular.
Ironbull, I presume.
Yeah, the horns usually give it away.
And he has some wonderful lines as well. He's voiced by Freddie Prinze Jr. And he's brought a wonderful amount of personality to the character. And all these things go into the kind of iterative melting pot that the artist can work with. So for instance, Ironbull he only has one eye, he has an eye patch, so it instantly suggests that there's a backstory around Ironbull. How did he lose it? Why does he adopt the patch? And those kind of little sort of creative tweaks can really influence people's perceptions of a character, and they can go all the way through from just his physical manifestation to the clothing that he wears, to the equipment that he carries, and of course when you get actually into the game and playing it, the moves that he makes.
They'll like put a detail on a piece of concept art and like some part of their clothing, which they thought that might be interesting, and then we'll see that and we'll go, hey, that's kind of neat, and we'll sort of springboard off of that.
There's a lot of stress that builds up as you make these games, and everyone's
working so hard and you want everything to be perfect. So when you see things finally come together, whether it be characters or whether it be environments or story or acting, whatever that thing is that you just really want to nail, finally gets there, it's incredibly rewarding.
Here at BioWare, we like to make our sound for our games unique and authentic. You know, things like birds, animals, trees, wind, footsteps, things like that. So, do you guys hear that? So we've gotten pretty lucky, and we managed to track down the dragon to its lair behind the trees. Cody's getting set up now, and he's gonna go in and get the sound for us.